In a case that's generated national outrage, a Shawnee County judge will once again decide the fate of the convicted rapist he let walk free. Good evening, I'm Liz Zamora.
And I'm Ben Bauman. Orlando Cisneros is back behind bars tonight, accused of violating his probation. Judge Matthew Dowd sentenced him to probation in May instead of a recommended 13 years in prison.
And 49 News crime and safety reporter Jesse Frey explains what Cisneros did that some say proves the judge made a bad decision.
Liz, Ben, we did some digging today and obtained these documents which show that Cisneros tested positive for marijuana only 5 days after being placed on probation. Then, after verbal warnings and counseling, he tested positive again 41 days later, according to his probation officer. Both violations of that probation. Now, a warrant was issued for his arrest, and today he turned himself in. Some say it proves the judge made a mistake by letting him walk free. Michael Burleson hasn't sat quiet ever since Judge Matthew Dowd sentenced this man to probation for repeatedly raping Burleson's 14-year-old daughter. Now that Orlando Cisneros has been arrested for violating the terms of that probation, Burleson says it just proves the judge made a stupid mistake.
It's being proved out in a relatively short amount of time. The lack of intelligence in making that decision.
Tanya West has also been actively interested in the case. Cisneros fathered her 2 children, and ever since the judge let him walk free, he's tried to gain custody of those kids. It was in court last month where West testified she witnessed Cisneros inappropriately kiss the children with his tongue, and now she's afraid Judge Dowd will let him walk free again.
He let him go the first time, so he's probably going to just do it again. Yep.
Falls Catholic priest has avoided jail time after being convicted of child sexual assault.
Charles Richmond, former chaplain of McDonald Central High School, was sentenced to 12 months of probation by Judge James Isaacson this afternoon. Originally charged with repeated sexual assault of a child, a felony, Richmond took a plea deal.
Man gets probation for drugging and raping his sister. That's right, you heard it, incest. That's what this man is charged with. California man who pleaded guilty raping his intoxicated 16-year-old sister.
One of the most controversial stories we have covered in quite some time. Nearly 100 viewer comments in only a couple of days after a man admits raping a 6-year-old girl but gets no jail time. This is the face of a confessed and convicted rapist. Vincent LeCompte admitted raping a 6-year-old girl, but instead of jail time, LeCompte received a suspended sentence.
He admitted to aggravated statutory rape of a minor, but you won't find him on the state sex offender registry. His is the latest case uncovered by News 4 Investigates of an older man making a plea deal to stay off the registry. Our chief investigative reporter Jeremy Finley found that deal enables him to now apply for his old job back as a chiropractor.
Look at the website for the Barnes Family Chiropractic Center, and you'll see right at the top, Dr. Matthew Barnes. Read his bio. You'll see he's retired, does administrative work, and also that he gave up his license in 2015. What it doesn't say is why. To find that out, you have to look at the minutes for the October 2019 Board of Chiropractic Examiners meetings. And there, you'll see, quote, Dr. Barnes began a relationship with a 14-year-old girl. Dr. Barnes pleaded guilty to aggravated statutory rape on February 2015.
That's not a relationship, that's a crime.
What concerns victims' advocates like Verna Wyatt is that without these notes, there is no public record of his plea deal, a deal that keeps him off the sex offender registry.
How is it protecting the public to wipe that off of his record?
Barnes is now the 4th man News 4 Investigates has uncovered in just the past 2 years who pleaded guilty to a sex crime against a child and, as part of the plea deal, avoids the sex offender registry. We found one of those men went on to open a karate studio for kids. Do you think a man who's guilty of rape should be teaching children?
Please leave this property.
That same man even said this about it on YouTube.
Look me up. You won't find my name on any predator list.
So why are these deals still being made?
Central School Resource Officer pleaded guilty to a sex offense today and is out on probation tonight. The Pitt County District Attorney's Office tells us one of the acts actually happened in a patrol car and were recorded on a cell phone. WNCT's Brandon Goldner is tracking crime tonight and joins us now in the newsroom with more. Brandon.
Angela, District Attorney Kimberly Robb says that former deputy Justin Dickinson cried in court this afternoon as he apologized for his behavior. His actions took place back in 2011 with a then 15-year-old student. Their relationship continued once she became of legal age. The FBI arrested Dickinson back in March after he showed an individual a recording of the sex act that happened in his patrol car. That individual told the sheriff's office, who reported it to the FBI.
And her pastor has been sentenced to probation after pleading guilty to child endangerment and indecent exposure. 53-year-old Randy Johnson was sentenced Friday to time served. He was facing several charges, including third-degree sexual abuse and indecent contact. Those charges were dropped in exchange for a plea deal. Prosecutors say Johnson sexually abused a child from 2013 to 2014. The female victim was 12 years of time.
I don't know. This should not happen. An ex-school bus driver pleaded guilty to raping a 14-year-old girl. He got probation.
There's this text from Brother Tyrone X talk about this man from Georgia, and that he actually was convicted of kidnapping and caging a woman, well, actually a child, and had the child as a sex slave, yet he's only being sentenced to probation.
Jessica Vecchiola's mom tells me after 4 years of fighting, she finally feels she did get some justice for her daughter, but it doesn't change the fact that she has to come here to visit her daughter. However, it does change her fight.
I want to reach out to whoever wants to listen. I would engage anyone that is willing to help with the fight to get laws changed and stronger penalties out there for people that are involved in situations like this.
Situations like Beth Arrington's daughters. Jessica Vecchiola's estranged husband, Tony Vecchiola, pleaded guilty Wednesday to involuntary manslaughter in her 2017 death and was sentenced to probation.
I'm angry. There are people that have pot in their cars that have served longer sentences than he will serve, and he took her life.
Arrington says while she is grateful that her son-in-law admitted he is responsible for killing Jessica, Arrington says she wants more for other women.
The title is called Men Sentenced to Probation for Gang Raping 13-year-old Girl. This was also put there will be no jail time for 2 men involved in a brutal gang rape of a 13-year-old girl. And they're asking 6 of them too. Like the 2 defendants before them, Tommy Williams and Clarence Williams, each received a minimum of 10 years of sex offender intensive supervision probation with a maximum. Family of the young victim was outraged after learning the sentence Tuesday. There were 6 of them, and they They gang raped my granddaughter, said the girl's grandfather, who got into a shouting match with the Williams family members and was forced to leave.
Kodak Black just pled guilty to first-degree assault and battery in his sexual assault case in South Carolina and has been sentenced to 18 months probation, TMZ has learned. The rapper was originally indicted on a felony charge of first-degree criminal sexual conduct, but his attorneys, Bradford Cohen and Beatty Ashmore, tell us Kodak copped a plea to a lesser charge to put the case behind him. As we reported, Kodak was charged for allegedly sexually assaulting a teenage girl back in February 2016 at a hotel. According to prosecutors, he pushed the girl into a wall and onto a bed before assaulting her, allegedly biting her breast and neck. Kodak had denied the allegations. Kodak admitted in court he bit the girl, but apologized to her, on the record.
Just here, probation for ancestral rape of a 12-year-old? That's sick, you know? And now, to get into the story, Aaron Schwartz, 22, and Petey Schwartz, 18, from Seymour in Missouri, are said to have breached the terms of their probation by contacting their victim. She was also raped by her two younger brothers, who prosecutors declined to charge, and left pregnant by one of her attackers.
Presented evidence that showed that this defendant needed to actually go to prison. In fact, we had asked for 10 years of prison time for the crime that he committed. Not only did he commit this crime, but it was committed in a public place, in a high school. And so, you know, we are at the point, it boggles our mind that the judge would not only give him probation, but also blame the victim for what happened to her in this case. And not only blame the victim, but not put at least the normal conditions of probation on this defendant. I mean, this individual actually admitted that he committed rape. It was not a contested hearing. The only issue that we had to deal with was punishment. Protected.
Gene, does it surprise you this was a female judge?
A female judge with two daughters, by the way.
Wow.
And you know what the district attorney is saying, the statement by the defendant, now a convicted felon, is absolutely horrific. He talks about how I wouldn't stop and I wouldn't stop.
The judge didn't return messages left by the Associated Press, but she told the Dallas Morning News she questioned the veracity of the teen's story, saying she, quote, wasn't the victim she claimed to be because medical records showed she was already sexually active and had given birth. The AP spoke with the girl's mother, who says the girl has no child and had never been sexually active prior to the attack.
And he talks about blood in his statement, and it is quite dramatic. You know.
Dallas Morning News, the judge implied the victim was promiscuous. She told the paper the victim had 3 sexual partners and had given birth before the attack. The victim denies she's ever been pregnant. The man was 18 when he admitted to raping the victim, who was 14 at the time.
And reads in part, I took her pants off and mine as well. She kept saying no and stop, but I just didn't stop. Why the judge chose this sentence is what's enraged so many. In an interview with the Dallas Morning News, Judge Howard, citing the girl's medical records, said the victim had 3 sexual partners and had given birth to a baby. Under the Texas Rape Shield law, a victim's sexual history isn't even admissible in court. Still, the judge concluded she wasn't the victim she claimed to be. The victim, now 17, says she's disgusted by the judge's actions.
I was shocked that a judge, someone that I trusted with this case, would go behind my back and make these allegations that she knows nothing about.
Young, an admitted rapist, could have been sentenced to 20 years in prison. Instead, just recently, State District Judge Janine Howard ordered him to serve just 45 days in jail.